Alright, this is part 2 for a 757 Blender tutorial. So, you see we have the fuselage with the windshield on it now. Actually, the windshield looks better than on the actual 757 I'm doing. But so, first what this one's going to be, it's going to be the wings and windows. So like, everything that goes off of it and then the windows. So we're going to start off with the windows. So the way I do the windows, instead of making them kind of rounded, is I just take a square, which is why this, oh wait, no, I used the starter cube already. So I just add and mesh and then cube. So you have a cube here. And then I just scale it down till it's about the size of a window. And then you can just make it a bit taller if you need to. Oh wait, well it's not even. There. And then I'm just gonna make it a bit longer. So that it goes through the whole fuselage. Like from each side. And I'm just gonna duplicate it with Shift D. And then you just click right where your cursor is, you don't move it. And then you just and when you get to around this point, you can just select the 4 and then duplicate them the same way. And then and this will make it go a bit quicker. However, sometimes it seems like the window spacing isn't quite even, either on my end or just on the plane. But I don't know. But this is just the fastest way to do it. And any of extra windows that this group couldn't make, I'll do individually. And to look around, you hold down on your scroll wheel by clicking, if your mouse can do that. And then you just hold it down and look around. And then right click is to open that, and then left click is to select. So see, we have these 2 extras. So we can just use these to fix up the windows I didn't get. And so see, now we have every window. So now, just like the windshield, the collections should still be there, so you move them to the collection that you made earlier. So in my case, windows. And then you're gonna line up the fuselage with the blueprint. The same way as if you were modifying the shape of it again. So you can see there, now we have it lined up. So now we're just gonna, I have to move these over until they stick through, just like the windshield. And then we're gonna go to modifiers over here on the fuselage and add a boolean. And then where it says operand type object, click collection, and then select windows or whatever you named your collection. And then click here to apply, or press Control A. And then now if you just select all the windows and delete them by pressing X, you can see that now we have windows on her. So we're actually gonna just move this a little out of the way. Now what we're gonna do is the doors. So you see how there's a slightly smaller door there, and that's because on the other side there's a service door which is a bit smaller. But for the doors that's the same size on both sides, you just make it go all the way through like a window. And I don't do these little doors because then there would just be holes. Although every door is going to be a hole for now, until I learn myself how to fill them in. Yeah. If you can hear my mouse, it's like a really cheap mouse. It's pretty loud and low quality. And also the scroll wheel is completely messed up, so it's a lot louder. And then for the front door here, we're going to move it up like this so that it doesn't stick fully through the fuselage. And then we're going to duplicate it and then align it with the line for the service door here and then move it back a bit. And then we're just going to shrink it until about where it matches the outline for the service door. And then you put the main door back on. Going to do that for selecting. So now I'm just going to move them to collection. I'm just going to use the Windows collection again. And I'm going to put this back. Get out here. And we're going to put this back in line. And then you're going to make sure that this service door cutout doesn't go all the way through the fuselage, so like it only goes in a little bit. And we're going to make sure that this one goes into the fuselage enough, so about there. And then we're going to add another boolean. Nope, that's the wrong one. That's bevel. And then again, we're going to go to collection, and then select the collection that you put the doors into, and then apply. And now when you delete these, you will have the doors. So you can see it has the smaller door there, and then the regular doors, and then the regular doors on this side. So there, now we have the windows and doors on. You see that's looking a lot more like a 757. Now when I make models, I do not really know how to do like whatever you want to call it, the wing cradles, so I don't usually do them. And I don't know if I'm going to do it for this tutorial either, so I'm just going to make the wings and stuff. And you can see that it's starting to look a lot like a 757 now that it has all its windows and stuff. And you see that the fuselage is hollow. So you can see how thick it is. So now what we're going to do is start making the wings. So what I do first is, now these parts, this is where it gets difficult to align stuff. So I'm actually going to duplicate this blueprint and then lay the second one flat on the floor, like that, so that we can use it for alignment. Because what I used to do was just rotate the whole model, but then when I would rotate it back, it would mess up alignment and stuff. So just gonna align those like that, and then select them both and just kind of move it up a little bit. So you can see now we have a better workstation. And I wish the Blender camera wasn't locked around the center here, so I could actually move it around. And so you can see how the doors on the map, you see how that's slightly different from all the rest. So what I do first is I actually start with the horizontal stabilizer, which is these little guys here. So what I did is I just make it kind of the shape of a wing. So I'm going to add a cube. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this up here and then make it actually shaped like a stabilizer. wait, no, what I do first is actually make it kind of into the shape of a wing. So I just eyeball it, and then you can just kind of follow what I do. So I'm gonna take this here, kind of shrink it as much as about that. It's not exactly exact, but just do the Z scale. The Z scale at one. Nope, never mind. The Z scale at 0.5. How about 0.1? There. Yeah, this is Z scale at 0.1. And then we're just gonna kind of eyeball the shape of a wing, because that should be pretty easy to do. So it's gonna add a few loop cuts in here. Now you should know how to do some of this stuff if you watched part 1. And then for this, I don't really need to go into wireframe mode, but I'm still going to actually, because I kind of do, so I can see those. So I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna shrink these guys down to so that they don't go inverted, but until they kind of form a little needle. And then I'm actually going to make another one here, and then kind of move it up, just to kind of, yeah, I make the wings pretty low poly, but just to kind of gentle it out a little bit. And it's going to shrink this down a little bit. So I'm using this blue one here, so it actually kind of just works. Yeah, but like, if you know the general shape of a plane wing, you can just kind of eyeball it. In editing, I'll insert an image of a plane wing shape so that you can kind of see. And then you can see that it's shaped a lot more like a wing. I'm just going to get this last guy here for the point. So you can see that's pretty much shaped like a plane wing would be shaped. So now what we can do is just kind of modify the shape to fit the stabilizer. Sorry, a second. Alright, so we're gonna actually, I don't know why it says do it so that about half of it's visible, and then we're actually gonna go back into modeling. And what we're gonna do is make this align with the end. So what I actually do for the wings is I make the stabilizers, and then I just use them for the wings, since it's pretty much the same shape. I just have to modify it a little bit. So now we're just gonna shrink this down. And then since they narrow out at the end, we're just going to make that a bit smaller too. Since, they start wide where they attach. You can use this blueprint for that reference, which we'll get to doing. And this one, you're going to rotate it until it kind of follows the fuselage about there. And I'm just gonna kind of widen it out a bit. I'm actually going to rotate it until it matches at that point there. Because I make it a bit longer so that it goes inside the fuselage and follows that curve there. Just make it about that. Actually, no, you can make it line up to this point here. And I'm just gonna add a couple extra loop cuts because I'll need them for when I make them into the wings and for right now. Because what we need to do is make that little swoosh there. I'm gonna select this one here. Just kind of shorten it until, so we're gonna use the green one this time, by the way. And then we're just gonna take these ones. I scaled it the wrong way. Yeah, and then shrink it like that. And then use the green one and make it match up to the lines. There we go. So we see we got one of our, oh, I messed up there. Okay, what did I do there? What did I do? It looks like at some point when moving, I accidentally moved it up. Or I scaled it the wrong way. How about let's do this correctly? Oh yeah, see, I moved it along the wrong axis. Yeah, you can learn a lot about Blender by just messing around in it. Like, I barely watched any tutorials myself. I just kind of learned this stuff. I obviously, for stuff like Boolean and all that, I did watch some tutorials, but once you know the basics of Blender, it gets a lot easier to use. Alright, so there we have one of our stabilizers. So now what we're going to do to mirror it is we're going to duplicate it with Shift D, and then we're going to mirror it X local. You can see now we have our two stabilizers, and then we'll line those up on the fuselage later. So what I like to do to make sure they're aligned is over here in location. So you see how this Z is 0.46424. So we need to make sure that Z for this is also the same, which it is. So, and I think those are actually pretty much aligned. But now what I'm going to do for rotation is I just like to test to see which axis this is. So this is the y-axis, so we're going to rotate it about 4 degrees on the y-axis for both of them. Actually, wait, no, for the one that I have selected, you do -4. And you can see now they're both kind of angled upwards, like they should be. So now we're going to go work on the wings. So let's go about here. We're going to take one of our stabilizers, we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to bring it over to the wing. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it so that it's straight. Oh, I accidentally did trackball. So we want it to, so we want our z-axis to be -10. And then we're going to put our y-axis back at 0. So now what we're going to do is modify the shape to match the wing. So what we're going to do is, again, make only half of it visible. And then we're going to rotate this spot, these specific ones, so that they're straight. Should be about there. And we're going to drag this over to the end. I'll show you how to make winglets too. So you see that matches up. And we're going to take this one here and match it up to this line where the wing stops tilting. And then we're going to scale it up so that so again, we're going along the green one this time and not the blue one, since we're working top down here. So you can see now that lines up. And then these guys, I'm just going to, wrong axis. Alright, so the green one. And we're going to resize these until it matches up. So what I'm actually going to do is this one here. That's right. And then that's right. And then let's just move this a little bit. Now that's about right. So now you have a wing. So if you see, look here, still, this one, sometimes for these you'll have to modify it a little bit since we changed how some of it worked. So this one along the blue axis are gonna scale down a little bit. And then this one right here, we're gonna scale up. Actually, all the ones at the end gotta be scaled up. For the wing, I usually use the blueprint to see how I need to scale it. So now we're gonna move. Now we're gonna move the one that we moved away back. Because now what we need to do is make sure that we have just the thickness correct. So the stabilizers are good, but I like to do this for the wings. So we're gonna turn this back to 90. You know, the z-axis needs to be Alright, so we're gonna have to turn this to 80, the z-axis. And we have to make sure that it angles up just enough. So we're gonna go along the y-axis. And then y-axis is gonna be -4 because they actually follow the same sweep. So I'm just gonna line that up. Make sure that this is aligned. Yeah, so I blend these to the fuselage a bit different since I don't use wing cradles. I don't know, I just don't know how to model them. Alright, so you see now that's lined up properly, so now we're just gonna make the thickness correct along the blue axis. Just gonna move that down so that matches. I'm gonna move this to where it matches. And then that's actually it. So now we have a wing of the correct shape. There we go. So now we're just gonna do the winglets. So how I do the winglets is I just gotta add a loop cut up until about here, and then that's gonna be your new edge of the wing. And then I'm just gonna move this up a little bit. And now you can make these as big as you want. And that's how I make winglets. And then we're just going to extend this a little bit until it's about where the tip of the old one, to where the tip used to be. so that now if we line it up properly, it's still the correct length. In fact, we actually need to one second. This part's hard because of the way those wing sweeps. Alright, yeah, this is good. So this is the correct length. And if you need to, I can send you an STL file of the wings for a reference. And then we're going to duplicate it. And then mirror. And then we're going to mirror along Y local. Okay. And then we're going to set the 80 to -80. So you can see now those are proper. Now we're gonna move this back out of the way, and we're gonna bring this back, because you gotta rotate these two guys back facing the right way, because they're not gonna stay connected like that, because then the wingspan wouldn't be enough. So what I do is I'm gonna rotate these, kind of eyeball it, and I'm gonna change. So this is -170. I'm gonna make that -180. Actually, alright, -170. And then we're gonna go ahead and align this. Yeah, I know I haven't done those fins yet, but I'm gonna make those separate parts. And then this here is gonna be -10. And you can see now we got our wings. And they both have a -4 degree sweep. Now, depending on the way you do it, the way you have to rotate some parts could be different. So you always have to keep that in mind, that some numbers could be a little different. So now we're just going to line these up with that blueprint there. And then, oh yeah, the tail. Honestly, for the tail, you can just super scale up one of these stabilizers. So we'll just do that, because that's just my lazy boy way of doing it. So, I mean, it's all pretty much the same shape, so. Okay, so we got them aligned. Now we're just gonna bring the fuselage over. And then we're going to take our stabilizers, so you select them and see which cube they are. So in my case, it's cube and cube 001. And we're just going to move them up. And then I got to move them a little to the side. So just move them until they're about lined up. So yeah, so this is a part where I usually eyeball it. So you just got to see, make sure that both. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that this part, there's no visible gap there. So about there, yeah, eyeballing is going to be different for everyone, but that's about how I do it. I'm just going to do the same thing for the other side. Do it right until that white line goes under. So about there. Yeah, so that's how I do it. I just eyeball it and try to be as precise as possible. So now we're going to bring this over so I can get the wings on. So what we're going to do is move the whole plane up a little bit. So wing is cube 003 and cube 002. Those are the wings for me. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit. And then what I do for the wings, since I don't do wing cradles, is I'm going to go into modeling for each wing. And then, actually, no, what I'm going to do is make it so that this line here is just barely under the fuselage. So I'm going to move it till that this point here is touching the fuselage. like just touching it. So about there. Actually, what we can do is, so location X 85273 852, so that's right. And we need to make sure the y-axis is the same because that's up and down, I believe. So we're going to copy the y-axis and then go to the other wing and then paste it in. So then you see now they're aligned that way. And then the x-axis you don't duplicate because then the wings will just go to the same spot that they're like just to each other. But that's aligned now. You can kind of see just how it blends. And then now what I'm going to do is just kind of blend it to the fuselage. So it's going to go into modeling. And then just kind of select vertices. So this one, you can use solid if you want. You just got to make sure that you select properly. So I'm going to make this whole bottom half blend into the fuselage. And this one, I'm not usually as precise. I just drag it until it's inside of the fuselage. And then once you do it to one wing, you can just mirror the other wing and then just use the same wing. And then just make sure that its positions are the same. So now it's blended with the fuselage. This is just because I myself don't know how to model the wing cradles properly. So now what we're going to do is, you see now it's actually correct. So now I'm going to get rid of this guy, duplicate this one, and then mirror it along Y local. And then I'm going to make sure that this is negative 10 degrees. You really should try to memorize what the original X location was. So I'm actually going to undo all this. So I'm going to copy the X location here. Wait, no. Control C. And then now I'm going to delete this. And now we're going to mirror this again. So that's going to be 10, negative 10. And then we're going to paste the original X. So now you can see that the wing, both, alright, so we got to move this just a little bit. And just use the red arrow, and then there, now the wings are attached. So now it's going to turn this, so now rotation Y is actually going to be negative 90. And then we're just going to kind of modify the shape of this to fit the tail. Vertical stabilizer. Alright, I'm back, so I just had to do something real quick. So now we're going to, so you see that's too small, that's just there for now, so we're going to move the plane and then get the stabilizer back, and we're going to move this away and then get this back. So we already have the shape that we kind of need for the stabilizer. For like top down, but now from the side we need to get them, because the tails are a lot bigger. So what we're gonna do first is change the Y. Oh wait, no, not the Y. The Z axis. Or not. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is we're going to do this in modeling instead. So first we're going to make so that half of it's visible, and then go over to modeling. Oh yeah, you need wireframe. And we're going to select this bottom group here, or the bottom 2 rows at this point, I don't care. Alright, we're going to have to do this a little weird, so you're going to take it like that, and take these 2 down like that. And then this one, the shape will be better once we get the rest lined up. And then that there, and then this row is going to move over. I'm going to rotate it until, so when you're rotating stuff, just eyeball it till it matches the line on the image. And then now we're going to, yeah, I usually start this part completely from scratch. I don't usually use, but I was just taking a lazy approach. So now we're going to make this line up. And then we're going to take this one and then do the same, just make it line up. Sometimes when I can't get it like this, I have to take the long and not lazy route of holding shift and then clicking each individual vertex, which I unfortunately have to do here. So you're going to hold shift and then just click on each vertex. Now just look closely to make sure you didn't forget any. So sometimes they're really close together. Okay, so now we have that row selected. That took way too long to figure out. And I forgot one. Yay! There we go. Alright, now we can put this here. And then we're gonna just kind of eyeball the scaling. There. We are going to have to do some modifying, probably. Let's see how that looks. Oh no, the shape's actually good. I've not used this method before, but there, now we have our tail. You see the shape is still correct and it'll fit onto the fuselage. So just gonna move the blueprints. And we're gonna get this, we're gonna get all these positioned to, we're gonna need to try and get the whole thing as close to 0 as possible, because we can't use this over here because then it'll mess up every part. So what we have to do is take the tip of the nose, you can kind of see where the tip is, and then try to get the green line to go right through it. You don't have to be as precise as possible, but it'll just make it easier if you can do this to make the tail X0. As close as I'm going to get it. So now we're just going to bring this over. The way the view works in Blender can get quite annoying. Another thing you can use is these lines. That's the advantage of the low poly fuselage. So location, I'm going to make that 0. Alright, now X needs to be 0. You know what? It's pretty centered. Just going to get that. Bam. Alright, yeah. eyeballing does tend to work sometimes. And just gonna make sure that that's correct. And now I'm just gonna use the red one, just kind of rotate it until that's about at the top, and then there. Now you've got all those attached. So I'm just going to. So that's all for part 2. You have all the wings and tail on. Hopefully, this was enough. If it isn't, then just message me, Discord. And yeah. Next part will be the engines. So it's going to go over to File and click Save. Alright, that's it.